what's a misconception or something every compressed air user should know?
Well, I found it interesting over the years on how some people will just have locked down more pressure, higher pressure is better. And that also leads in the higher cost of operation. So if your plant only requires 90 PSI, going to 130 isn't a benefit for you, it's a cost.
So some users push their pressure there because their machines operate better. Maybe the machines are only operating at 90 PSI, but they have to get the pressure up to that 125, 130 to get them to operate. Tell our audience a bit about what they could do to maybe lower the plant pressure. What are some things they could do in the compressor room or the piping?
Well, yeah, piping is key. Look at the way your facility's piped and that it's piped most efficient. So you don't have a pressure drop across the plant to overcome that loss.
That's good. So
receiver tank locations are key.
Yeah, size of our filters.
Size.
You know, there's a balance between going too big on a filter and being just right. We often see couplers used in places they shouldn't be used. If it's a fixed machine, hardwire it or hard pipe it or hard direct connect it rather than using that coupler as you would with an electrical connection. Treat it the same way. Those couplers are very, very restrictive, and I've seen up to 10 to 15 PSI pressure drop. The other thing too is a CNC machine uses a large pulse of air for a very short, split second during its tool change. Well, they will say that the average flow in the manual is 6 to 10 CFM, but that pulse that happens is for a split second and could be, 100 CF plus during that shot. It needs to get the air to that pulse or that requirement instantaneously. If it doesn't, you have that low pressure alarm that pops up.
So I've got another real world experience. A plant in South Dakota makes doors. Called me in after I did a seminar at a local college, and they called me in to take a look at what's going on. They said, we need to buy a bigger compressor. What do you mean? He had a bunch of Ingersoll ran 150 horsepower compressors running at about 125 PSI. We got to get one that's 150 PSI. We got it. We just can't work with these. So I went and took a look at what's going on, and I was measuring pressures in the headers, still 125 all over the place. We had come on down to the location where these air tools are being run. And one of the things that I did and still do from time to time is take a gauge and a T and put it into the air tool and put your disconnect on the other side. So I got 125 pounds in that header. They had a manifold underneath the assembly line with a lot of disconnects again coming out. I pulled the trigger on that thing, and it was 80 pounds. 125 in the line, 80 pounds there. We cleaned up all the hoses to make them larger. The hose leading into their manifold, bigger, not a 3/8 hose, a 1/2 inch hose or whatever, 3/4 I think is what we used. Decreased the amount of disconnects, only one at the tool only. They ended up with 110 PSI or 115 PSI at the tool. Now we lowered the pressure in the plant, which, as we talked about earlier, every 2 PSI drop is 1% of your energy. So instead of going out and buying another 150, 200 horsepower air compressor at 150 PSI, we turned compressors off and saved the customer an enormous amount of money and sold them nothing.